The character of Monk is a detective, which of course we've seen before, but he's kind of an unlikely hero. He's got a lot of problems, which somehow, in some ways, inhibit him from functioning in the world and in his job, because he's got a severe case of obsessive compulsive disorder. He has an amazing ability to. I think it has to do with his attention to detail, which gives him this ability to read people and to read an environment, a crime scene, for example, and to see things that other people don't see. And his mind, the way his mind works, sort of like Sherlock Holmes, it's all about the logic of how things happen and why they happen. So it's his attention to detail. When we find the character, when we come upon him, he's been kicked off the police force because he's become somewhat dysfunctional and a danger to himself and his fellow, detectives. And one of the reasons that he's become so dysfunctional, the main reason, is because he's lost his wife. She was killed in a car bomb, a very mysterious way. She's a journalist, and they had a very, a great relationship. He was very much in love with her and somewhat dependent on her. She kind of kept him somewhat sane. And since her death, he hasn't been able to really face the loss of her, and he hasn't been able to figure out what happened to her and why. Even though he's a genius at figuring out crimes, he's at a loss with this one because he's too close to it, because he can't deal with it. So into his world comes the character of Sharona, who is his assistant, played by Biddy Schramm. And she is his kind of right hand, left hand. She was a nurse. She's now taken over being his assistant and helping him. Biddy is a one of a kind. She's a true original. She's a character in real life, and she brings a lot of that to the part. Stottlemyre is the chief of police, and played by Ted Levine, and they worked together at one time when they were both part of the police force, and Stottlemyre is really good at his job. He's been promoted and he's a real career cop. But he's kind of like a Salieri character. He admires Monk. He's driven crazy by Monk, and he has this kind of subliminal envy because he knows that he's never going to be able to touch what Monk does, what he's capable of. And he begrudgingly has to bring him in to help him on these cases when they've really been stymied, when the police are stymied. So that's kind of an interesting dynamic too. There have been some crack-ups, and where people just cracking up. But Biddy has a hard time. I have this one kind of compulsion of touching things, as I mentioned, and for some reason, it's just a matter of touching something with my finger. It's no big deal. I don't think it's a big deal. Monk certainly doesn't think it's a big deal. But for some reason, it hits Biddy's funny bone, and so we always have trouble getting through those. Everyone has certain things that kind of hang them up and bug them, the little minutiae of life. For me, it's I have a problem with dishwashers and refrigerators. I always have to restack the dishwasher because no one ever does it the right way. And also, I hate it when people put things into a refrigerator when they put the short things on the tall shelf. That does not work at all for me. Because then there's no room for the tall things to go on the tall shelves. And, well, Monk has this, but magnified about 100 times. What we've been, researching the disorder, and I think the thing about it is that the movie treats it somewhat respectfully.